This symbol, as far as I can deduce, was called the Sihedron rune. The star itself, I think, according to this, seems to signify the 7 virtues of rule in ancient Thassilon. The virtues, as far as I have been able to deduce so far, were wealth, fertility, honest pride, abundance, eager striving, righteous anger, and rest. They also symbolize the 7 schools of magic as recognized by the Thessalonian mages. You might then, of course, as a learned man yourself, interject and say, well, 7, well, aren't they 8 schools of magic? Yes, they are nowadays, but it's quite obvious from much of this research I have done that the ancient Thessalonian wizards and sages regarded divination as not a school of magic at all. It was quite shunned, actually, by many of their researchers, it seems. And as such was not incorporated into magical lore until much, much later. And he smiles.
Nods in interest. Trying to compensate and keep Brodart's attention on him instead of, the sheriff going, "What the hell does this have to pertain to the fucking matter?"
Yes, Sheriff Hemlock seems to quickly run out of patience here. But Brodart continues with his speech. Well, so these then symbolizes the 7 virtues of rule, but... and this is the most interesting part, actually. From the carvings you brought back and the fragments, it seems to me quite clear that these rulers of ancient Thassilon were far from virtuous. I dare say, actually, that many of the classic, what we call sins these days, are actually derived from these virtues of rule. Sins, of course, as you know, is greed, lust, pride, gluttony, envy, wrath, and sloth. It's sort of a corruption of the virtues of rule, as it were. This would indeed explain why some of the Thessalonian Empire started to crumble. If the foremost defenders of the righteous ruling virtues were somehow corrupted or fell to vice, well, the virtues they were supposed to champion surely became reviled among the common man. And as such, we, several millennia later, regard them as sins. And he smiles again, sort of beaming at this discovery.
Nods politely and keenly. Within a part of himself, although he is very interested in learning more, he's kind of like, Sheriff! Sheriff, do something! We will be here for 19 hours!
Now, this is quite interesting, because one of my... And at this point, Sheriff Hemlock breaks in and basically says, Quink, what does this have to do with anything? What does this, has an ancient empire that has been lost for millennia, according to your own words, have to do with anything that is going on now? The sage sort of stops at his blinking.
So, Saloro just offers a polite shrug and said, "We found this carved onto the chest of one of the brutally murdered and mutilated victims of some killer who also harvested the eyes and other organs of the man after he had already died. You can understand the sheriff's natural and non-scholarly interest in safeguarding Sandpoint by learning as much about this as possible, Brodart."
Oh, yeah, of course, yes, quite. He sort of adjusts his glasses again. Well, Let's see. Well, the Sehedron rune is certainly a marking of power. It might have very well stood as a symbol for the Empire itself. And back in those days, and at this point, the sheriff again said, "Quink." Oh yes, quiet. Well, he seems to think. If someone actually carved this symbol into, well, this body of yours, I am not actually sure why anyone would do that. I suppose it is a symbol of power, I guess.
It
But
was
it's
very
quite...
precise and meticulous as well. Sort of the only care and precision that was actually given in the murder. Everything else was brutally and viciously lopped off, but this mattered to the individual in some sort of passionate way.
Brother Quink nods. I see. So the rune itself was the sort of important part. Interesting, interesting. Well, it perhaps it served as some sort of religious right, or perhaps as a focal point of power of some sort. He looks at Saloro. Did you feel any remnants of arcane energy at the site?
Ends up shaking his head readily. Given his intense familiarity with Arcana, although I suppose he didn't readily try to detect magic, he figures it'd be like he didn't think it had anything to do with magic, so he's just gonna assume no and shakes his head.
Peculiar. The symbol is not well known. I dare say that you and me, my dear boy, and he points at Saloro, are the only ones who have actually seen and studied it to some length, and, well, some other people in Magnamar that I rather not mention. You can't trust them, not at all. And horrible people, all of them. They don't believe me, you know. Again, at this point, the sheriff breaks in. Quink, I am very quickly running out of patience for your ramblings. At this point, Quink blinks again. What? Oh, yes. Well, if someone carved this into the body, I would assume that he is some sort of scholar, perhaps, to know of the symbol. He blinks and looks around. Well, I didn't do it.
Saloro looking at the sheriff says, as the good sage says, there are very few individuals in this life who are studied and learned enough. We're looking for someone of a scholarly or a privileged background, a former noble who is given to boredom. Perhaps it's difficult to say with the background, but it sharply reduces the amount of people who could have seen it. Even, and Saloro again pulls out the hated symbol, just glancing at this once is such a rarity in and of itself, unless the runewell beneath Sandpoint or the demon beneath Thistletop is able to reach into the heads of others so greatly that they feel inspired to carve the rune. But then, Saloro ends up shrugging because he doesn't want to go off on an arcane ramble of his own. Just stops.
The sheriff nods. So we are looked perhaps for someone learned, a scholar, and he shoots quite a suspicious glance at Bird Quink, but, again, looking at the frail man's body, kind of shrugs. And, as you say, it's quite rare. How many people in Sandpoint would know of this rune? Brodart seems to think, not many. Myself, the good Saloro here. I would think that the headmaster, Sebel Sorn, Shalelu Andosana has seen it, of course.
Say, if you know whether Father Xantus has been brought in on this or not after we have visited Sandpoint, then he would know too. And the rest of the Spiral Vanguard, for we have obviously seen it in clearing out the catacombs. Beyond that, Saloro shrugs, I haven't the foggiest.
And the sheriff shoots Saloro a glance. Pardon me for saying this, Master Saloro, but you must understand I need to eliminate all the possibilities. You and several of these people Brodart mentions were out of town for several days during the week, correct?
I had recruited them to venture back to Thistletop, Shalelu, Isawari, Sable, as well as Brodart here, in the hopes of containing Malfeshnikor the Devourer.
I see. So you traveled back to Thistletop.
Yes.
He seems to stroke his chin. I see. Well, that... I will need to do some more establishing of this alibi, of course, but then it seems to me that you are out of the question, all of you, since the first set of murders occurred when you were away. He looks at Brodart again. If you find anything else, Brodart, I wish you to seek me or Saloro here out as quickly as possible. The sage nods. Yeah, of course, but my studies take quite some time. I can't really run around town all the time. I am an old man, you know, and these studies, well, they're quite fascinating.
Goddamn old people. For fuck's sake. Saloro will stand up and just go, thank you for your time. And, you know.
Yes, thank you, says the sheriff.
You, make motions to, you know, leave.
Yep.
And hope the sheriff doesn't, you know, engage in some activity of his own. Such as bashing the sage's head in.
The good sheriff stands up from his chair and walks out. Close the door on your way out, please.
Saloro will close the door, and upon going outside, just standing next to the sheriff will just... As I said, not sure whether it'd be a pleasure.
The old man is he's a bit of a kook, isn't he?
I think it's safe to say that I can't see what interest he would have in even attempting to do such a thing in the first place. If anything, if you were going to find him having committed a murder, it'd be because someone set fire to his home.
Sheriff snorts. I suppose so. But this exclusivity of the symbol is quite peculiar. Yes, I think I need to look into this a bit more, actually.
Would like to review this further on your own. Saloro extends the unholy symbol to the sheriff. It's not exactly like I have any need of this. It's a good reference piece rather than always trusting my mind.
He looks at it. No, I think I can remember the symbol. We have the body, of course, and I will make a small copy of it from that. You can keep that thing. He nods at it. It gives me shivers just looking at it.
Saloro nods and will reluctantly return it into his room.
All right.
I will check on Brodart every day I remain in Sandpoint. If he ever manages to come with anything, I think I can do a better job of sifting through his ancient... Saloro shakes his head, and I might not be so willing to leap over the desk and put an end to him.
The sheriff nods. I would appreciate that. Thank you. Now I must go and visit the mayor, because she has requested an update on what's going on, and looks about any size. Well, best of luck to you, Saloro. Please keep investigating this, if you will. And if you find anything interesting, bring it to me.
Will do, Sheriff.
Nods and walks down the street and disappears.
Yep. And as for Saloro himself, you know, I'll make him into tiny size. Whee! Go to a beach.
All right. At the city garrison, Arenoss and Erevan shows up. There seems to be quite the activity about. A lot of the city guard no doubt have heard of the murder at the mill, and everyone seems to be quite on edge when the two heroes show up.
Right. What was the guy's name again?
Van Vinder.
All right. Arenoss will just walk up and say, "Where is Mr. Winder?"
A guard sort of blinks and looks at him. What? Oh, it's you. Well,
Erevan walks up right behind him.
Me?
the guard looks quite suspiciously at Erevan.
Is there a problem?
No. Not at all. You were looking for Vinder, you said.
Yes.
Well,
Do you know where he is?
yes, we have him locked up downstairs.
All right. Could we perhaps talk to him?
Grimith says, well, I guess Sheriff Hemlock has given you permission. Go ahead. I can take you down there.
Why are you so mad?
He quirks an eyebrow. Mad? I'm not mad.
Well, you don't seem very happy to see us.
Well, it seems that whatever has struck in town seems to know you. So it seems to me that you may have brought this thing or whatever it is here.
I see.
I can assure you, what is here is not due to us. It's just having a reaction to what we've done to try stopping it.
Well, that's comforting. Anyway, this web says...
All right. We'll certainly do all we can to stop this from happening.
He leads both of them down the garrison stairs into the holding cells in the basement. He points, well, over there's Old Man Vinder. In that cell, he points further down, is Eber Thorn, if you want to talk to him. He was the man who... Well, he was the man who discovered the body.
All right.
He tosses one of you guys the key to the door, basically.
All right. Arenoss will just walk up to the bars to where Van Vinder is.
Yep. The man seems to be in his upper middle ages. He is quite the bear of a man, actually. Big, hefty, has quite the impressive beard, and he seems to be at this moment sort of slumped on his cot, resting against the far wall. When he hears footsteps approaching, he looks up and looks at Arenoss and Erevan with what seems to be apparent hostility.
Hello there, Mr. Vinder.
Yes, glares.
I understand how you must feel. I also have lost dear ones to me. But we are currently investigating these murders, and any information that you could give would be very useful in finding the murderer and bring him or it to justice.
He snorts. Bah! Murderer. My daughter is dead. She is dead. Not murdered. She's completely mutilated and destroyed. And this thing, whatever it is, whoever it is still walking out and about in the streets. And here I sit, locked up. Who's gonna protect my other daughter, eh?
Ben.
I assure you we will do all we can to find the murderer and bring it to justice.
Well, it's a bit too late, isn't it? She's dead.
Yes, but we're gonna do it to ensure no one else gets hurt.
He snorts. Heroes. Always bring the worst. He mumbles to himself.
Erevan goes ahead. Make sure he's got direct eye contact with Erevan, and Erevan in a soft tone. Then, I know exactly how you feel. My own parents are dead. But do not, instead of putting your hatred on those who are trying to help you, do not slap their hand away, but instead embrace their help and let them. Because if we can stop this from happening, no one else must feel this pain. If that person was going after you, you no longer have to, your family no longer has to feel pain either. It will all be over if you will just help.
The man blinks and sort of looks at Erevan with what seems to be, again, rising anger. Well, aren't you some sort of sanctimonious cleric, no doubt? Help and forgiveness, bah! He lured my daughter there. I tried to warn her, but did she listen? No. Because he lured her. Yes, he did. I tried to stop that engagement. I really did. I told her he would be the death of her. I did. Did she listen? No. Of course she didn't. But now she is dead. And that weasel of a man lured her to her death. If she wasn't so infatuated with him, she hadn't been at the sawmill and she hadn't died. It's his fault.
He is also dead, however.
And that serves him right. I spit on his grave. He should have died much sooner. This would never have happened.
Trust me, I understand how you feel, and it's easy to blame anyone for this. Because we're always looking for reasons. But if you would help us to give any information, we might avenge your daughter.
Oh, what sort of information do you want?
Well, anything you know about him, about what's been going on.
He snores. Well, let me tell you a little bit of Benny Harker. He draws breath. He was a pig of a man. He didn't deserve my daughter at all, and he lured her with the promise of gold and riches. And he sort of grinds his teeth. Always a womanizer. I have heard of him. He has a reputation around town, let me tell you. Did she listen? No, not at all. She just took all of the flirts and all of the presents he heaped upon her and just smile at innocent smile of hers. Now she's dead. And he bites his, clenches his jaws quite heavily. Benny Harker was a greedy and sorry excuse of a man. I do not mourn his death. He ran up the prices in the mill. He tried to scam everyone in town out of the money. No doubt he's dead. No doubt he tried to scam someone bigger than him. And in his hubris and in his greed, my daughter had to pay for her with her life.
Well, do you know any powerful people he might have been in contact with? Any specifics?
He blinks. What? Are you implying that I am in some way in league with such people?
No, no, that's not at all what I said. If you had heard any rumors about who we might have been seeing, and
he snorts. Puh! I don't take much stock in rumors. I don't listen to those silly rumors flying about town. They're almost always false. Why don't you ask his partner, eh? He would know, wouldn't he?
Yes, he would. And I'm going to ask him after I'm done talking with you. Well, if you don't want to say anything, then I guess we're done. And I wish there was anything I could do to comfort you. I know how you must feel, but I don't think there's anything I can do. Although I will assure you that we will try to bring God damn it. That we try to bring the murderer to justice.
He snorts and spits on the floor. Well, all the evil deaths I can wish upon him.
Of course. And Arenoss will just walk to the other cell with what's the name? With the other guy in it.
Ebor Thorn.
Right.
Ebor Thorn was or is quite handsome. A man in his mid-20s, as far as you can see. He, when you approach, are quite caked in what seems to be blood and gore, and he's sitting, staring quite vacantly in front of him in his cell.
Arenoss will open the cell and step in.
Okay. He doesn't really make an indication that he has noticed.
All right. Arenoss will walk up to him and sit down next to him.
He blinks and lifts his head and looks up at Arenoss. Who are you?
I am. Wait a minute.
Who am I? Quick.
No, wait. I am Arenoss Garish. I am a part of the Spiral Vanguard, and I'm investigating the murders.
He blinks. Oh, right. The heroes of Sunpoint.
Yes, I guess you could call us that. Do you know anything about what has happened? Any information would be useful. If you had seen anything, if you have heard anything that what going on with your friend in the last couple of days.
He blinks. I don't know what you're talking about. I came to open up the mill this morning and I found the bodies. I know nothing else.
You haven't heard any rumors about or heard anything from him?
No,
about what
nothing.
Been, nothing at all?
No. You're pretty sure that he is hiding something. He seems quite nervous.
Any information you would give would be very useful. We're trying to find the murderer and avenge his death.
Well, why don't you lock up that madman of a father she had? He never approved of their relationship. And he's quite aggressive. I'm sure he is the one.
I don't think he would murder his own daughter.
Maybe it was an accident. Maybe that's why he flew into a rage. Maybe that's why he's so screamy all the time.
According to what we saw at the mill, I don't think he did it. Unless he was possessed by something.
Well, why not?
Well, then it wouldn't really have been him. It would have been the one who possessed him that did it.
He
or
blinks, seemingly not to understand.
if he was controlled by someone, then that person would be very powerful, and it would be he who was responsible for the murder, and the father would just have been an instrument of his power.
So why are you talking to me? I know nothing of such things. I know nothing of magic and compulsions.
No. But you might have heard, maybe heard something about the people he had been talking to in the last couple of days. Venvinder, that is. If he had any connections with powerful people outside town or inside town.
Venvinder, he shakes his head. No, he's just a local shopkeeper.
Never done anything suspicious or never acted any weirdly around you?
His rage is apparent enough. He's famous in town for flying into berserk rage whenever he gets threatened or slighted.
No. Anything to add, Aaron?
Well, for your... Well, the Harker, do you know if he's, well... Was there any... You say he... Just a shopkeeper, you say?
The Harker is my partner at the mill.